Welcome, weary traveler. You've left behind the noise of the world and stepped into a realm untouched by time. Here, candlelight dances upon ancient stone walls, and the air carries the soft hum of forgotten lullabies beyond these gates. The night is gentle, and every story is a silver thread, weaving warmth around your heart. So, rest your mind. Let each word be a quiet step into the halls of dreams, until sleep, tender and deep, finds you. You are safe here, and slowly, the world drifts away. Perfect. Let's drift gently into the dream. Chapter 1. The Silver Whisper. The night had a softness to it, a quiet breath that seemed to move through every leaf, every blade of grass, every fold of shadow that lay across the earth. I remember standing beneath a canopy of stars so faint, so distant, that they looked like forgotten embers scattered upon a deep velvet cloth. The world was still. Even the crickets whispered, as if afraid to wake the silence. The moon hung low, pale and round, its light spilling over the meadow like a silver tide. I felt it touch my skin, cool and tender, as though the night itself had laid a hand upon my shoulder. I had wandered far from the village, far from the flicker of lanterns and the hum of human voices drawn by something I could not name. My feet sank softly into the damp grass, and the earth gave a faint sigh beneath me. There was no destination in my mind, only stillness. Only that slow, rhythmic pull, like a dream unfolding one breath at a time. The air smelled faintly of rain and wild mint, and somewhere a brook murmured a steady, lulling sound, like the world breathing in its sleep. I closed my eyes and let the sound wash over me, in and out. The rhythm of the night, the rhythm of my heart. When I opened them again, I noticed how the moonlight moved, not like light upon a surface, but as if it flowed, like water, slow and graceful, running over the grass and pooling between the roots of the trees. I watched it gather at my feet, shimmering faintly, as though the ground itself had begun to glow. For a moment, I thought I was imagining it, that it was only the weariness of a long day making the world shimmer in strange ways. But then I saw it move toward me. The silver light slid like mist, curling around my ankles, soft and cool, and then I heard it. A whisper. At first, it was only the faintest sound, softer than wind, gentler than breath. I thought it was the rustle of leaves, or the sigh of distant branches. But then it came again, clearer, yet still impossibly tender. Why do you wander so late, child of earth? I froze. The voice seemed to come from everywhere, from the air, from the ground, from the light itself. It wasn't frightening. It was warm, deeply soothing, like hearing a lullaby sung by the night. I looked up at the moon, and it seemed larger now, brighter, closer. My breath caught. The silver disk shimmered, and for the briefest moment, I thought I saw a face within it, not fully formed, but shaped of light and shadow, kind and knowing. I don't know, I whispered back. I couldn't sleep. The air trembled softly, as though the sky had exhaled a quiet sigh. Then, perhaps, the moon replied, "You were meant to listen." I blinked, unsure if I had truly heard those words, or if my own longing had given them voice. But the moonlight pulsed faintly, as if in answer. and I felt something deep inside me settle, a stillness that wrapped itself around my heart like silk. The brook nearby sparkled in the pale glow, and I followed its sound, drawn forward. The path curved gently through the meadow, where night-blooming flowers opened like tiny lanterns. Their petals were pale, ivory and silver, and they swayed in a rhythm too slow to belong to the waking world. Each step I took felt softer, lighter, as if gravity itself was easing its hold. I began to feel that perhaps I was no longer walking through the world I had known, but through a dream of it, the dream the world might have when it sleeps beneath the moon. The moonlight thickened, draping the trees in a silvery haze. The air shimmered. A breeze brushed past, cool against my cheeks, carrying the faint scent of lavender and something older, something like memory. The voice returned, softer now, almost lost within the sound of the water. Every night, the earth breathes dreams, and those who listen may walk within them. My heart beat slowly, each pulse echoing like a bell beneath still water. I knelt beside the brook, its surface rippling with threads of silver. When I reached out, my reflection wavered, and for a heartbeat, I saw not myself, but something else. A version of me that looked lighter, almost translucent, eyes bright with starlight. I blinked, and the vision faded. The brook flowed on, endless, unbothered. Still, I felt the moon watching me, not as something distant or unreachable, but as a gentle presence, old as time and endlessly kind. "Are you truly there?" I asked quietly. The night seemed to listen. The leaves stirred, and the moon answered with a breath of silver wind. "I am always here, child of the turning world. You forget me when the sun rises, but I never forget you." The words sank into me like rain into thirsty soil. A warmth spread through my chest, a quiet ache of comfort, of being seen. I felt my eyes grow heavy, not from weariness, but from peace. The kind of peace that comes only when one has stopped searching. I lay back upon the grass. The earth was cool beneath me, and the stars seemed to draw closer. The moonlight brushed across my face, and every breath felt like being cradled by the night itself. In that moment, I could no longer tell where my thoughts ended and the moon's whispers began. I felt myself drifting, not asleep, not awake, but somewhere between. Somewhere softer. The moon hummed low, a sound too deep for words, too tender for music. It vibrated through the air, through the grass, through me. The brook joined in with its rippling melody, and the wind carried the harmony between the trees. The night was singing, and I was part of it. The stars blinked like slow heartbeats. The world turned beneath me, and yet I felt still, suspended in an endless calm. The moon's light shimmered upon my eyelids, and I imagined it wrapping me in a silvery cocoon, safe from time, from thought, from noise, before my mind dissolved fully into that glow. I heard the moon one last time. "Do not fear the shadows," it whispered. "They are only places where my light rests." I smiled, faintly, sleepily. The air smelled of dew and the promise of dawn far away. The sound of the brook faded, and the world drifted into a hush so deep that it felt like eternity holding its breath. Then, with the gentlest sigh, I let go, and the night folded around me like a dream. Chapter 2. The Path of Dream Lithwen. I awoke, if waking is what it could be called. The world was no longer as I remembered it. The meadow was still there, but it shimmered as if it had been spun from moonlight and mist. Every blade of grass glowed faintly, silver dew trembling at their tips like beads of glass. The air was neither cold nor warm, but full, alive with a quiet pulse that seemed to echo my heartbeat. I sat up slowly, the softness of the earth pressing beneath my hands, and for a moment I simply breathed, in and out. Each breath felt deeper than before, as though I were inhaling the night itself, its calm, its patience, its endless rhythm. The moon hung above me, vast and luminous, closer now than it had ever been. It filled the sky with a light so gentle it felt like touch, and I realized I was no longer in the world I knew. This place, this dream, was woven of silver threads, stitched from silence and breath. I rose to my feet. My steps made no sound. The brook that had sung to me the night before had become a river of light, its current flowing not with water but with something softer, something that shimmered like melted glass. I watched it wind its way between the trees, and I felt it calling me. I followed. The path was not a road or a trail, but a stream of light winding through the dreamscape. As I walked, the world changed quietly around me, as though it were breathing in time with my steps. The trees seemed taller now, their trunks smooth as marble, their leaves like fragments of moonstone catching faint glimmers of silver. The air itself glowed faintly, filled with drifting motes of light that rose and fell like slow snowfall. There were no sounds of life, no rustling wings, no chirping insects, only that low, eternal hum that seemed to rise from the earth. It was not lonely, it was complete. With every step, I felt lighter. My thoughts slowed, dissolving like ink in clear water. The memories of the waking world of rooms, names, voices drifted farther away, until they were only faint ripples behind me. And then, as I rounded a bend in the luminous stream, I saw her. She stood upon the water as if it were stone, tall, slender, wrapped in veils of silver that flowed around her like the surface of the moon itself. Her face was hidden in soft radiance, but I felt her gaze before I saw it, cool, kind, ancient. I knew who she was, though I could not have said how. The moon, not as a distant light in the sky, but as presence, form, spirit. When she spoke, her voice was not a sound. It was vibration, like the heartbeat of the world moving through my bones. You followed my whisper. I bowed my head, not out of fear, but reverence. I couldn't help it. I said softly, "Your light." It felt like it was calling me home. A slow, tender motion, perhaps a smile, perhaps only a shimmer of light. Home, she murmured. That word means many things in the world of waking. Here, it means only this: to return to what you are. Her words fell into me like warm rain, and I realized I could feel them, not only hear them. They settled beneath my ribs, where the last flickers of human restlessness still stirred. The moonlight, her light, began to weave through them gently, untangling them like threads of an old tapestry. You have carried much, she said. The noise of thought, the ache of time. Lay them down. You do not need them here. I felt something loosen within me. All the tiny, invisible weights I hadn't known I carried. The things that pull the soul earthward began to drift away. My body felt lighter, my breath deeper. The world around me grew brighter with every exhale. The moon extended a hand. Her fingers were made of light, and yet when they brushed my palm, I felt warmth, the kind that lives in candle flame and memory. At her touch, the river beneath us rippled, and suddenly the current flared, bright and alive. "Walk with me," she said, and so I did. We glided along the river of dreamlight. The water, or whatever it was, flowed without sound, carrying us forward through landscapes that changed with every breath. The trees melted into mist, the mist became mountains, and the mountains dissolved into clouds of glowing dust. Everything was soft. Everything moved slowly, rhythmically, as if we were floating through a living lullaby. After a while, she spoke again. "Do you know why the moon keeps watch when all others sleep?" I shook my head gently. "No, because even silence needs a listener." Her words lingered in the air, glowing faintly before fading back into the night. We drifted onward. Somewhere far below, I heard faint bells, soft, distant, like echoes of dreams half remembered. Each tone pulsed through the air like ripples. In still water, and with every sound, I felt myself sinking deeper into calm. Time did not seem to exist here. Each moment stretched endlessly, yet it passed as gently as a sigh. I could not tell if we had walked for minutes or for days. All I knew was the peace that filled me, the peace of being nothing more than a breath of light within a boundless night. The moon stopped beside a pool where the river widened. The surface was perfectly still, a mirror of silver. She turned to me. "Look," she said. "Tell me what you see." I knelt and gazed into the pool. At first, I saw my reflection faint, shimmering. But then, like mist parting, the image changed. I saw myself lying beneath the same sky, in the same meadow where I had fallen asleep. My face was calm, my breathing deep. The world around me glowed faintly, touched by silver light. I looked up at her, uncertain. "You are still there," she said softly, "and yet you are here." The dream and the dreamer are the same breath, drawn in two worlds. Her gaze, though hidden, felt warm upon me. "Do not rush to understand it. Only breathe." And so I did. I breathed, and the pool brightened. I breathed again, and the stars reflected upon its surface began to move, drifting like lanterns across a silver sea. Every breath felt like a tide out, shaping the dream around me. Then, as I exhaled one final time, the light from the moon grew brighter. The pool shimmered, and a narrow bridge of pale stone unfolded across its surface. "The path ahead is yours to walk," she said. "I will be near, but you must go where the light leads." Her voice carried no command, only comfort, the kind that holds, not binds. I stepped onto the bridge, the stone cool beneath my bare feet. The moon's light followed, a soft halo wrapping me in warmth. And as I walked, I realized that I was no longer afraid of the unknown. Because, in that silver dream, everything, even the darkness, was made of light. The bridge stretched onward, fading into mist. The hum of the night deepened, and the last words of the moon echoed faintly behind me. "Every step you take is a note in the song of sleep." Now we drift further into the dream. The light softens, the air grows still, and the heart begins to remember its own calm. Chapter 3. The garden of still waters, the bridge carried me forward into a hush, so complete that even my thoughts seemed to slow their beating wings. The mist ahead parted gently, as though guided by unseen hands, revealing a garden that shimmered in shades of silver, pearl, and pale blue. It was vast, but not empty, full of quiet life, breathing softly beneath the moon's endless gaze. The air here was thick with serenity. It clung to the skin like dew, cool and fragrant, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine and rain that had never fallen. A faint wind moved through the leaves, and each rustle was a whisper, low and kind, as though the garden itself was welcoming me home. I took a step forward. Beneath my feet, the ground felt smooth, almost silken, not soil, not stone, but something between the two. Light gathered where I walked, forming small ripples that spread outward before fading back into stillness. Everything here responded to movement as though alive, yet nothing was hurried, nothing disturbed. The heart of the garden was a pool, still round, perfectly calm. Its surface reflected the moon so clearly that it looked as though the sky itself had fallen into its depths. Around its edge grew flowers I had never seen, their petals translucent, glowing faintly from within. When the soft breeze touched them, they released gentle rings of light that floated above the water before dissolving into mist. I knelt beside the pool, and the stillness seemed to draw me inward. My reflection stared back, softer now, more luminous, the edges of my form blurring as though made of breath and light. I reached out, touching the surface. It was neither cold nor warm, only still, utterly, beautifully still. For a long time, I did nothing but breathe, in and out, each exhale melting into the quiet around me. The sound of my breath blended with the whispering leaves and the gentle hum that seemed to live in the air. The more I listened, the more it felt like a song, not sung but simply existing, woven into the essence of everything after some time. A faint movement rippled across the water. I looked up. A figure was standing on the far side of the pool, faint like a shadow made of light. They were robed in pale silver, and when they moved, the surface of the water did not break. Their face was calm, their expression unreadable yet full of peace. When they spoke, their voice was soft as the sigh of wind through feathers. "Do you seek to hear the silence?" I hesitated, unsure what the question meant. I already do," I whispered. The figure tilted their head slightly, as though listening to something within the air between us. "Not yet," they murmured. "You hear its echo. But silence itself must be entered, not found." They extended a hand across the pool. As they did, the water began to shimmer more brightly, threads of light weaving together into a path that floated upon its surface. Without thinking, I stepped forward, the faintest ripples blooming beneath my feet. When I reached the center of the pool, the world seemed to pause. The air grew heavy, then light, then utterly still. The stars above flickered once, then steadied, and the voice returned, not the figures, but the moon's. "Breathe," she whispered. "Let go of sound, and let stillness speak." So I breathed, and slowly, sound began to fall away. First the whispering leaves, then the hum of the air, then the soft beating of my heart. One by one, they faded, until there was only quiet, not empty, but full. So full that I could feel it pressing gently against me from every side, like a sea of pure calm. In that silence, I began to feel things rather than hear them. The weight of the world beneath my feet, the pulse of light through the air, the faint, rhythmic pull of the moon above, drawing my breath in time with her own. I don't know how long I stood there. Time had no shape. Perhaps moments, perhaps hours. But when I opened my eyes again, the figure across the pool was gone. Or perhaps they had become part of the light around me. The pool glowed softly, its surface rippling with slow circles of silver. I felt different, emptier, yet somehow fuller, like a vessel that had been quietly washed clean. Then, gently, the voice of the moon returned, warm and close, as if she stood beside me. You are learning to listen without seeking. This is how dreams are heard. I turned my gaze upward. The moon was vast, shining through veils of mist, her light steady and patient. I didn't know silence could feel alive, I whispered. All stillness breathes, she said. The stars hum, the shadows murmur. You are part of it. You always have been. Her words wrapped around me like a soft shawl, made of warmth and silver. My eyelids grew heavy again, my body swaying gently as if rocked by invisible hands. I lay down upon the glowing path that floated upon the water, and it held me weightless, safe. The pool beneath reflected the moon's face above, and I drifted between the two, caught in their mirror light. For a long time, I simply floated. There was no need to move, no need to speak. The garden breathed around me, slow and eternal. Every now and then, a flower would release a ring of light that drifted across the water like a thought, dissolving before reaching the edge. I watched them rise and fade, over and over, until I felt myself becoming one of them, a thought made of light, drifting through silence. And as my mind softened into that dreamlike haze, I heard one last whisper before sleep claimed me completely. In still waters, you will find your reflection. But in stillness itself, you will find your soul. The words faded into the quiet. The pool dimmed to a gentle glow, and the dream deepened, carrying me into realms where even the moon's voice became a distant hum of love. Perfect. Let's drift even deeper now, into the soft glow of memory, where light floats like thought, and peace lingers between breaths. Chapter 4. The Lanterns of Memory. When I opened my eyes again, the stillness of the garden had changed. It was not gone, only transformed, like a song shifting softly into its next verse. The air trembled faintly with silver light, and the pool that had held me now lay calm behind, its mirrored surface rippling with gentle waves of memory. I rose, and my body felt weightless, as though I were made of the same quiet shimmer that drifted through the air. The world was dim and luminous all at once, painted in shades of silver and dream blue. Everything breathed. Every leaf, every stone, every petal pulsed with the same slow rhythm that moved through my chest. The path ahead glowed faintly, not stone, not water, but something softer. I began to walk, my bare feet leaving no trace, my heartbeat echoing faintly in the hush. Above, the moon followed, her light spilling in wide, fluid streams across the Dreamscape. After some time, though time had lost all meaning here, I noticed small orbs of light floating in the air. They moved slowly, lazily, like dandelion seeds adrift on a silent breeze. Each one glowed faintly golden rather than silver, their warmth gentle and inviting. They began to gather as I walked, circling me in quiet spirals. I reached out a hand, and one drifted near my palm, hovering there, trembling with life. Inside it, faint images shimmered, too soft to see clearly. I squinted gently, and the vision resolved. I saw myself as a child, sitting beneath a tree at dusk, fireflies flickering in the grass, my mother's voice humming an old lullaby I had forgotten until now. Her words were lost to the air, but her tone, that tone reached through time and touched something deep within me. The orb pulsed warmly, and I felt my throat tighten with tenderness. Then, slowly, it floated upward again, as if content to return to the sky. I watched it rise until it became a distant star. More orbs drifted from the shadows, appearing between the trees, over the still ponds, beneath the arching vines that glowed faintly in the moonlight. Some were large, some small, each carrying faint glimmers of lives, faces, moments. They hovered like floating memories, released from time, free to wander the dream. The moon's voice came then, low and near, as if she walked beside me, though I could not see her. "These are the lanterns of memory," she whispered. "Each holds a piece of what was, softened by the night's mercy. They drift until they are seen, and seeing them is how the soul remembers it was never alone." Her voice was a lullaby itself, woven of air and patience. I listened, and the world seemed to slow even further. The lanterns pulsed in rhythm with my breath, glowing brighter each time I inhaled. I moved among them, careful not to disturb their slow dance. Each one that floated close showed me something small, a face smiling, a path I had once walked, a forgotten moment of laughter. None were sharp or painful. The dreams softened them, sanding every edge, leaving only warmth as I passed through them. I realized how many lights there were, countless stretching as far as I could see. They filled the night like a constellation that had fallen gently to earth, and each was beautiful. The moon spoke again. "Every soul carries 1,000 lanterns, though in the waking world they are hidden beneath thought. Here they are set free. They are the glow that warms the darkness." I felt tears gather, but they did not fall. They shimmered in my eyes like reflections of the orbs. "I didn't know I still carried these," I whispered. "You never stopped," the moon replied. "You only forgot how to see their light." I walked on, my fingertips brushing the air as lanterns drifted near. The more I watched, the more I began to understand that these memories, these fragments, were not simply mine. Some were older, larger, belonging to others, perhaps even to the world itself. I saw scenes I did not remember, a candle burning in a long-forgotten temple, a mother cradling a child beneath a different moon, a village wrapped in snow centuries before my birth. Each light held peace. Each shimmered with the same stillness that filled the garden, as though time itself had been forgiven here. A soft breeze moved through, and the lanterns swayed. A few floated down, landing upon the ground and dissolving into faint trails of gold dust that wound through the grass like flowing threads. Where the dust touched, flowers bloomed, pale, glowing blossoms that opened slowly, their petals unfurling with the rhythm of a sigh. I stood among them, breathing in their scent, faintly sweet, like honey and rain. The moon's light deepened, bathing everything in a silver-blue glow. I felt her presence surround me again, tender and endless. "Do you see how memory can heal?" when it no longer binds but simply shines. I nodded, though words felt far away. It feels like remembering love itself. That is all memory truly is, she whispered. Love, seen from afar. The air shimmered with her words, and for a moment, I thought I saw her again, not fully formed, but radiant, standing among the lanterns like the heart of the night itself. The orbs gathered near her, orbiting slowly, as if drawn by the gravity of her calm. She lifted her hands, and the lanterns began to rise, one by one, into the dark sky. They floated higher, joining the stars, until the heavens above were thick with golden fire. The world below glowed dimly in their reflection, rivers like glass, trees like soft silhouettes carved from moonlight. I tilted my head back, watching them disappear into the endless blue-black dome above. When the last lantern had risen, the night felt lighter, emptier in the most beautiful way. The air no longer hummed with memory, but with peace. The moon spoke again, her voice now distant but kind. You have released what you carried. Now your light will walk freely. I looked down. My skin shimmered faintly, as though part of that golden dust had settled upon me. When I moved, I left behind trails of pale glow, like echoes of breath. I smiled softly, and the night smiled with me. The path ahead brightened once more, winding between the trees toward a horizon made not of land, but of faint mist and soft radiance. I took a breath, and the world exhaled in return, and then I walked on, weightless, thoughtless, surrounded by a sky of rising lanterns, until the dream folded once more into gentle silence. Every sentence flows like candlelight, soft, flickering, and deeply comforting. Chapter 5. The house beneath the moon, the path wound onward, gentle and unhurried, carrying me through drifting veils of silver mist. The lanterns had all risen into the heavens now, leaving behind only a faint golden shimmer that hung in the air like perfume. The garden had fallen silent again, not the silence of emptiness, but of deep rest, as though the world itself had closed its eyes and begun to dream. I followed the glow of the path until the trees began to thin. Ahead, through the haze, I saw something that made my breath still, a small house, standing quietly in the moonlight. It looked as though it had been built from sleep itself. Its walls shimmered faintly, not of stone, but of soft white wood that caught the moon's silver glow like snow at midnight. The roof was curved gently, covered in tiles that gleamed like polished shells. Warm light glowed from its windows, not bright, not golden, but a kind of deep, living warmth, like the inside of a candle. I stood at its edge for a while, just watching. The house did not seem strange here. It felt inevitable, as though I had been walking toward it since before the dream began. When I stepped closer, the mist parted soundlessly. The grass beneath my feet grew lush and soft, dotted with white blossoms that seemed to hum faintly when brushed by my steps. A narrow stone path led to a door framed in ivy and moon, their petals trembling in the faint breeze. The door itself was made of smooth wood, carved with flowing patterns, curves and spirals that looked like rivers, clouds, and waves. At its center was a small handle shaped like a crescent moon. I hesitated, hand hovering above it. For a moment, I felt as though I were standing at the threshold between worlds, the breath before waking, the moment before falling asleep. Then, softly, the moon's voice came again. "Enter. The house has been waiting." Her tone was gentle, motherly, steady. So I turned the handle and stepped inside. The air within was warmer than the night outside, carrying the scent of old wood, honey, and something faintly floral, lavender perhaps, or rain-soaked herbs. Candles burned everywhere, on tables, on shelves. Upon window ledges, each flame small and unwavering, glowing with a calm light that filled the room like music. The walls were draped with soft fabric, their patterns flowing like tides. The floorboards creaked faintly under my bare feet, but the sound was comforting, like the heartbeat of an old friend. In the center of the room stood a large wooden table, polished smooth by time. On it rested a clay teapot and 2 cups, one already filled, steam curling slowly upward into the still air. I stared at it, feeling a strange recognition stir within me. I did not remember this house, yet every part of it felt familiar. The scent of the tea, the warmth of the light, the faint hum of the candles. It was the feeling of returning somewhere I had never been but had always known. I sat. The chair was soft and steady, its wood sighing faintly under my weight. I lifted the cup, letting the steam brush my face. It smelled of moonflowers and mint, of cool nights and gentle rain. When I took a sip, the warmth flowed through me slowly, not just through my body, but through my mind, through every thought and quiet ache I had carried. The tea seemed to whisper as it touched my lips, a language too soft for words. Then, across the table, I saw movement. Someone was sitting there, though I hadn't noticed them before. They were cloaked in soft white, their face half hidden by the light of a nearby candle. But when they looked up, I knew their eyes. They were mine. The figure smiled. A gentle curve that carried no surprise, only understanding. Their voice, when it came, was low and familiar. The voice I had spoken with in countless dreams. The one I had never realized was my own. "You found your way back." I nodded slowly, though my throat felt tight. I didn't know I was lost. The other me tilted their head, eyes glowing faintly with reflected light. No one knows when they are, until stillness finds them. Their words were soft, rhythmic, like waves lapping at shore. I looked around the room again, feeling the warmth of the candles, the peace in the air, the hum beneath everything. "Is this real?" I asked, as real as the breath between one heartbeat and the next. They smiled again, leaning forward slightly. "The moon keeps this house for those who wander too long in the noise. When the mind forgets its quiet, she opens her door." I felt a deep calm settle over me, the kind that comes not from understanding, but from surrender. I closed my eyes and breathed in. The scent of tea and wood and moonlight filled my lungs. When I opened them again, the figure across from me had changed. They were no longer quite me, nor quite the moon, but something between. Their form shimmered faintly, fading at the edges like mist. "You have walked far," they said softly, "but the night is long and kind. There are still dreams to walk before you rest." I nodded, unable to speak. My hands trembled faintly, not from fear, but from the tenderness that swelled in my chest. The figure stood, reaching out a hand toward the door. It opened on its own, revealing a faint glow outside, a path of pale light leading deeper into the night. When you leave this house, you will carry its peace with you, they said. No shadow can follow where light is held gently. I rose from the table. The candles flickered once, then steadied, as if in blessing. I placed the empty cup down. Its warmth lingered against my fingertips. As I stepped outside, the air met me like an embrace, cool and kind. I turned once to look back. The house shimmered faintly, the windows glowing softly. For a moment, I thought I saw the figure still sitting there, watching, smiling. Then the mist folded gently around it, and it faded from sight. The path ahead waited soft, glowing, winding through a sea of light-kissed flowers. Above me, the moon shone brighter than before, her silver warmth wrapping the world in quiet grace. I took a deep breath. The house was behind me now, but its stillness remained a calm pulsing quietly in my chest. And as I began to walk again, I felt the moon's voice drift through the wind, a whisper so faint it seemed part of the air itself. You are never far from home, child of light, for home lives where your breath grows quiet. Every word moves like ripples over water, calm, rhythmic. Luminous. Chapter 6. The Bridge of Echoes. The Bridge of Echoes. The path led me gently away from the house beneath the moon, winding through a valley wrapped in silver mist. The air here was even softer than before, as if every sound had been wrapped in velvet, every breath a quiet song. I walked without hurry, each step falling into the rhythm of my heartbeat, slow and even, like the ticking of a distant clock submerged beneath a sea of dreams. The world around me glowed faintly, dew hung from every blade of grass, each drop catching a glimmer of moonlight until the valley shimmered like a field of fallen stars. The scent of night-blooming jasmine drifted through the air, delicate, steady, timeless, and with each inhalation, I felt the memory of the house settle deeper into me, warm as candlelight in the chest. Ahead, through the mist, I began to see movement. Something vast and glowing stretched across the horizon, not land, not cloud, but a bridge made entirely of light. It began at the valley's edge and arched gracefully into the sky. Its surface translucent like glass, but pulsing softly with silver luminescence. Each beam seemed woven from moonbeams and starlight, interlaced like silk threads floating above an unseen river as I approached. I heard it, a faint, melodic sound, not quite a song, not quite words, a chorus of whispers flowing from beneath the bridge. It was the sound of echoes. I stood at the foot of the bridge and looked down. Below, an endless expanse of dark, still water reflected the moon like a trembling mirror. The echoes came from it, gentle voices rising from beneath the surface, rippling upward with each breath of wind. They didn't frighten me. There was something soothing, almost familiar about them. I took a step onto the bridge. The light beneath my feet shimmered but did not break. It was warm to the touch, not heat, but a steady hum of energy, as though I were walking upon a living memory. Each step sent ripples of light outward, crossing one another in quiet waves that made the entire structure seem alive. As I walked farther, the voices grew clearer. They came in soft fragments, phrases that drifted in and out of meaning. Some were tender, some were wistful, all were calm. Remember the warmth. You are made of this light. All that you have forgotten still remembers you. I slowed, listening. The words came from below, but they echoed also inside me. Not as something new, but as something returned. I realized, with a quiet kind of wonder, that these were not the voices of strangers. They were mine, all the parts of me that had once spoken softly and been silenced by the noise of the waking world. They were here, whispering still. Each echo was a memory, a feeling, a fragment of breath that had once belonged to the version of me who had laughed, loved, hoped, or grieved under different moons. I stopped in the middle of the bridge and looked down at the water. The surface shimmered faintly, and slowly, an image began to form, my own reflection, but surrounded by others. Not ghosts, not shadows, just echoes. A younger me, eyes full of wonder, holding a lantern too bright for her small hands. An older me, hair like drifting snow, face serene, smiling as if she had seen the end of all storms. A version of me who had wept for lost dreams, her tears turning into stars before they touched the water. They were all there, standing within the reflection, their eyes meeting mine with quiet warmth. For a long time, I simply breathed. The night wind brushed against my cheeks. The air shimmered faintly with the rhythm of their voices. No one spoke aloud. There was no need. The silence between us was enough. It was the language of belonging, of stillness, of return. Then, like the softest ripple, one of the echoes, the older one, lifted her hand. She did not beckon. She simply opened her palm, revealing a tiny sphere of light, glowing faintly like a pearl caught between tides. Her voice rose from the reflection, barely more than a sigh. Every dream you've walked has left light behind. Every sorrow, too. Gather them gently. As I watched, the light drifted upward from her hand, rising through the air until it reached me. When it touched my palm, it melted into warmth, a pulse of soft energy that spread through my chest like a second heartbeat. The moon's voice came then, faint and far, like a tide calling from the horizon. Do not fear your reflections, dreamer. They are not there to judge. They are the ways you have learned to shine. I stood there, eyes closed, feeling the echoes light weave into me. The bridge thrummed beneath my feet, not a sound, but a sensation, like the deep vibration of a harp string after it's plucked once and left to sing. The whispers began to fade, slowly, tenderly, until only one voice remained, my own, clear and calm. I forgive you. It wasn't something I planned to say. It simply came, the kind of truth that rises naturally when there is no more resistance left. And with those words, the reflection below shifted. The echoes smiled, all of them, one by one, and then dissolved into ripples of silver that drifted back into the water, glowing faintly as they disappeared. The bridge quieted. The night around me grew still again. I took another step forward, then another, until I reached the far side dot. At the edge of the bridge stood a low archway woven from pale vines and glowing leaves. Through it, I could see another landscape, a meadow of tall white grass moving slowly in the wind, like waves beneath the moon. Before stepping through, I turned once to look back. The bridge shimmered softly, still humming faintly with light. The water below reflected my image alone now, calm, peaceful, steady. Thank you, I whispered. The moonlight flickered, almost in reply, and I walked onward through the arch. The air beyond was warm and fragrant. The wind moved gently through the grass, carrying with it the faint sound of distant bells. Each chime seemed to mark, not time, but breath, slow, patient, eternal. As I walked deeper into the meadow, I realized something subtle but certain. The farther I went, the lighter I became. Not lighter in weight, but in being. The thoughts that had once crowded behind my eyes now drifted like feathers into the air, dissolving into quiet. There was no need to remember where I had been or where I was going. The night would carry me where I was meant to be. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of my steps merge with the song of the grass and the quiet pull of the moon. Above, it was then that I understood the bridge had not only connected me to what I had been, but to what I would become. Every echo I had met would travel with me, not as voices, but as peace. Let your mind loosen as you read. Every word is a step further into stillness. Chapter 7. The meadow of time. The meadow waited like a vast ocean of light. Tall white grasses swayed slowly, their tips catching the moonlight until the entire field shimmered as though breathing. Each blade bent and rose again, keeping rhythm with something older than time, the quiet pulse of the night itself. I walked among them, feeling their cool touch brush against my hands. The air was soft and fragrant, heavy with the scent of wild mint and rain. Every step stirred a faint whisper, as though the earth were humming lullabies beneath my feet. There was no clear path here, yet I felt no need for one. The meadow seemed endless, but not in a way that frightened me. It was vast, the way the soul is vast, full, but never empty. Above, the moon hung larger than before, silver and whole, her light spilling down in wide ribbons that wove through the field like mist. Everywhere she touched seemed to slow. Even my heartbeat softened, matching the rhythm of her glow. I paused, breathing in the stillness. The air shimmered faintly around me, and for a moment I could almost see it, the movement of time itself, not as seconds or minutes, but as drifting threads of light that moved lazily through the sky, tangling, unspooling, fading into nothing. I watched them with quiet wonder. Each thread seemed to carry something, a glimmer, a sound, a faint image. When one drifted close, I reached out and touched it. It was warm, and for a heartbeat, a memory unfolded inside me. A sunrise over distant hills, the smell of bread baking in an old stone kitchen, the sound of laughter echoing from a childhood I could no longer fully recall. Then, softly, it faded, like mist touched by wind. I realized then what this place was. This was where time came to rest. Every moment that had ever been, every breath, every tear, every whisper drifted here, slowing until it became part of the stillness. The meadow of time was not a place of endings, but of gentle keeping. I knelt among the grass, closing my eyes. The earth beneath me was warm, breathing faintly, almost alive. As I leaned closer, I could hear faint murmurs beneath the soil, not words, but the hum of all that had ever lived and passed, blending into harmony. For a while, I simply breathed. The longer I stayed, the less I could feel the boundaries of myself. The air moved through me as though I were part of it. The grass swayed not around me, but with me. When I opened my eyes again, the moon had lowered, hovering nearer, her glow turning softer, milk-white and tender. It felt as though she were watching me, not from above, but from within the air itself. Her voice came then, gentle as always, yet closer than ever before, not echoing through the sky, but rising from within my own chest. You are beginning to remember how to rest. I smiled faintly, my voice little more than a breath. I didn't know I had forgotten. The grasses rustled, whispering in agreement. The scent of mint grew stronger, mingling with the sweet dryness of night air. The moon's light thickened, draping itself over the meadow like gauze. I watched it pool in the hollows between the grasses, forming tiny glowing streams that wound together, flowing slowly toward a shallow basin at the meadow's heart. I followed the light until I stood before the basin. It was filled not with water, but with something clear and still, a reflection that shimmered even without movement. I knelt and peered into it. At first, I saw only light. Then, slowly, an image began to take shape, not of the world above, but of something deeper. I saw moments, hundreds of them, floating gently, the day I first saw snow. The quiet joy of a kind word, the ache of loss, the comfort of forgiveness. Each moment glowed softly, neither joyful nor sorrowful, only real. And as I watched, I felt something change within me. The need to hold on began to loosen. The ache to understand began to quiet. Each image that rose seemed to say, "You do not need to carry me anymore. I already live within you." A warmth bloomed in my chest, spreading outward like ripples in still water. I realized I had spent much of my life clutching at moments, fearing they might vanish. But here, in the meadow of time, nothing was lost. Nothing ever could be. Every breath, every heartbeat, every fleeting kindness, they all remained here, woven softly into the great stillness. The moon spoke again, her tone like wind through tall grass. "Even time needs to sleep, my child. You, too, are allowed to stop measuring." Her words sank deep, dissolving into quiet understanding. The more I listened, the more I felt time unravel within me. The past no longer stretched behind, nor the future ahead. There was only now, vast and endless, like an ocean with no tide. I lay down in the grass. The blades bent gently beneath me, forming a cradle that swayed with my breath. The stars above flickered softly, some bright, some fading, and I thought of them not as distant fires, but as dreams resting between one lifetime and the next. I let my eyelids fall. The air hummed faintly against my skin, carrying the moon's light through every corner of me. Each exhale felt like releasing something I didn't know I was holding. Each inhale felt like being filled with silence itself. I don't know how long I lay there. Perhaps a moment, perhaps eternity. When I finally opened my eyes again, the world had changed subtly, not in form but in feeling. The light was softer, the air warmer, and the space within me vast. Unburdened, somewhere far away, a bell tolled, once a slow, hollow sound that seemed to mark not the passage of time, but its rest. I sat up, the grass whispering as I moved. The moon was rising again, returning to her place in the heavens. Before she drifted beyond the edge of the meadow, her light touched my face once more, warm and wordless. "Rest is not the absence of movement," she murmured softly within me. "It is the moment when movement becomes peace." The words lingered like breath on glass, fading but never vanishing. I stood slowly, stretching, feeling both weightless and whole. The meadow rippled gently, as though exhaling with me. Somewhere ahead, beyond the rolling field, I saw a faint glow, golden, like dawn. And though I knew the night was not yet over, I began to walk toward it, calm and unhurried, carrying the stillness of the meadow of time within me. Let the words move slowly, like water under moonlight. Chapter 8. The River of Reflections Beyond the Meadow of Time. The ground sloped gently downward, soft with dew. Each step I took felt lighter than the last, not because the path was easy, but because I no longer carried the weight of hours. The grasses thinned, giving way to a soft glimmer ahead. A line of light that moved, shimmered, and whispered as it went at first. I thought it was another thread of the moon's glow stretching across the land. But as I drew closer, I heard it, the unmistakable murmur of water, a river, yet not like any river I had ever seen. Its surface was smooth as glass, though it flowed with a quiet pulse. Instead of blue, it glowed with silver and pearl, and wherever the current bent, ripples of faint color shimmered, pale pink, soft gold, quiet indigo. It was as though the night itself were melting into the stream. The river's sound was music, low, constant, tender, like the hush of breath when someone you love has just fallen asleep beside you. It filled the air with an invisible rhythm that seemed to slow the world even further. I followed the riverbank for a while, watching how the light played upon the surface. Sometimes it reflected the moon clearly. Other times, it broke her image into hundreds of shimmering fragments that danced and rejoined like drifting thoughts. The moon's voice came, softer than before, not from the sky this time, but from the river itself. This is the river of reflections. It carries all that hearts have ever hidden. Her tone was gentle, like a hand resting upon my shoulder. I knelt by the water's edge, feeling its cool breath against my skin. What does it reflect? I whispered. The river answered with ripples. Within them, faint shapes began to appear, not clear at first, just impressions of light and color. Then, slowly, they formed into images. I saw moments, not memories exactly, but feelings given shape. A sigh that had never been spoken aloud. A tear held back for too long. A smile forced when the heart ached. 1,000 small, quiet emotions that had once lived in the corners of my being. They floated upon the water like petals, carried by the current, glowing faintly before fading downstream. I watched in silence. Each one was beautiful in its own way, even the sorrow, even the ache. There was no harshness here, no judgment, only softness, only understanding. The moon spoke again. Every feeling that has ever touched you wished only to be seen. When unseen, they linger in the depths. When witnessed, they return to light. Her words felt like warmth spreading through my chest. I leaned closer, my reflection bending and shifting in the water's glow. For the first time, I didn't look away. The surface changed again, and now I saw myself, not as I was now, but as I had been through many quiet nights. I saw myself sitting by a window, eyes on the stars, pretending not to feel loneliness. I saw myself smiling when I was uncertain, comforting others while hiding my own tremor. And yet, in every image, there was tenderness, a faint, enduring light that had never gone out. Tears welled in my eyes, though they did not fall. They simply shimmered there, like new stars being born. The moon whispered, "Let them flow, child of light. The river knows what to do." So I did. The first tear slipped free, falling silently into the current. When it touched the surface, it did not vanish. It turned into light. A single, glowing ripple spread outward, carrying its warmth along the stream. I exhaled slowly. Another tear followed, then another. Each one became light, soft, luminous, serene. Soon, I wasn't sure where the river ended and where I began. The water's glow brushed against my hands, my reflection merging with its current. My breath synchronized with its rhythm, inhale with the flow, exhale with the release that the world dimmed, not in darkness, but in gentleness. The moon's reflection trembled across the surface, her face serene, her smile full of knowing. "This is not sorrow," she said softly. "This is cleansing. Even light must flow, or it forgets how to shine." Her words wrapped around me like a lullaby. I reached into the water, my fingers breaking the surface. It felt neither cold nor wet, only alive, humming faintly against my skin. When I lifted my hand, tiny drops clung to my palm, glowing like dew. Within each droplet, I saw a faint memory, but it no longer carried weight, only radiance. I let the droplets fall back, watching them merge again into the flow. The river's current shifted then, and from the distance came a soft melody, voices rising and fading like a choir made of echoes. They sang without words, yet I understood. They sang of letting go, of forgiveness, of resting in one's own light. I sat by the river for what could have been moments or lifetimes. Time no longer mattered here. Only the gentle rhythm of the water remained. Eventually, when I stood, I felt lighter, not empty, but free. I followed the current as it curved toward the horizon. There, I saw it divide, one branch continuing into the darkness, the other flowing upward, impossibly, as if climbing back toward the moon. The upward stream shimmered brighter, each ripple catching the starlight and sending it skyward in long, glimmering ribbons. And I realized this was how the moon renewed herself. Every tear, every reflection, every quiet release returned to her, becoming the glow she wore across the night. I smiled softly. The thought filled me with peace, that nothing ever truly vanished, only transformed. The river whispered once more as I turned to leave, its voice like silk sliding over stone. "Flow gently, dreamer. The current within you will always find its way back to light." I walked along its edge until the sound of water became distant, replaced by the quiet hum of the earth again. The air had grown warmer, touched now with the faint scent of morning, though the sky was still silver, not yet touched by dawn. Ahead, a faint archway of light waited, formed from mist and moonbeams woven together. Beyond it, I sensed something vast, perhaps the final part of this journey. I turned once more toward the river. Its light shimmered like a farewell. I whispered, "Thank you," and stepped through the arch, carrying its calm inside me like a slow, eternal heartbeat. This is the quietest place in the night, where all dreams, spoken and unspoken, come to rest before being born again. Chapter 9. The Valley of Dreams. When I stepped through the archway, the world unfolded in light. It wasn't the silver glow of the moon anymore. It was softer, warmer, like the inside of a candle flame seen through silk. The ground beneath my feet shimmered faintly, as though it were made of woven mist. The air was weightless, carrying the faint scent of lilies and rain, and before me stretched a vast valley, endless and hushed. It was filled with floating lights. Some hovered low, near the surface of the earth. Others drifted high in the air like fireflies that had forgotten gravity. Each one glowed with a different hue, some pale and gentle, some golden and deep, some barely visible, flickering like sleepy embers. They moved slowly, gracefully, like thoughts that had learned how to breathe. A sound came, not music exactly, but something between a hum and a heartbeat. It resonated through the air, through me, through the very ground. It was peaceful, but immense, as though the entire valley were breathing in rhythm with the stars. This whispered, a voice behind me, is the Valley of Dreams. I turned, but there was no one there. Only the air, speaking softly in the moon's tone. Her presence was everywhere now, not above, but within. Every light seemed to carry a fragment of her song. These are the dreams of all living hearts, she said. Every hope, every wish, every fleeting vision that touches a soul before sleep finds it here. I stepped forward, feeling the mist swirl around my ankles. The lights parted slightly, as if acknowledging me. Each one pulsed faintly, like it was greeting an old friend. One drifted near, a small, tender glow of blue and rose. When it brushed against my fingertips, I saw it a moment, soft as breath. A child's laughter beneath a blanket of stars. The gentle touch of a hand reaching out in comfort. A promise whispered into the dark. I'll be here when you wake. The dream lingered, then floated away. Continuing its quiet dance, every light I passed carried something unique. The silent wishes of lovers separated by distance. The hopes of artists painting with their last candle. The sigh of someone who had finally forgiven themselves after years of carrying sorrow. Some glowed bright, some faint, but none were lost. Each one had a home here, gently swaying in the valley's endless calm. The moon's voice deepened. Dreams are not illusions, child of earth. They are bridges, threads, connecting hearts that would otherwise drift apart. They carry the truths, too tender for daylight. I listened, every word soaking into me like rain. The hum of the valley grew stronger. And I realized it was not just one sound. It was millions of voices, layered in harmony, each singing their own quiet dream. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. As I walked, the lights began to shift, some following me, others swirling above like a soft tide. Their glow reflected upon my skin, painting me in shades of peace and wonder. At the valley's center stood a pool of stillness, perfectly circular, its surface smooth as untouched glass. It reflected not the sky, but the dreams themselves, a kaleidoscope of glimmering color. The moon's voice came from within the pool now. This is where all dreams are gathered before they return to the hearts that need them. Every night, I breathe them across your world, 1,000 stories to soften the dark. I knelt by the pool, my reflection merging with its shifting light. Are my dreams here too? I whispered, the pool shimmered in answer. Ripples spread, and faintly, I saw them, shapes familiar and strange all at once. A dream of flight. A dream of standing at the edge of an ocean that sang my name. A dream of meeting someone who felt like home. Each glowed faintly, fragile but alive. You are both dreamer and dream, said the moon. Every heart that dares to hope sends light here. Every time you sleep, your soul visits this place. Even when you forget, the realization filled me with warmth. I looked around, knowing that every light drifting near me belonged to someone. Somewhere, a stranger perhaps, yet connected in this vast, silent chorus. I reached out to one particularly faint light, trembling, dim. It pulsed weakly, like a forgotten wish. I cupped it gently in my hands. It flickered once, twice, and then began to glow brighter, until it bathed my palms in gold. The moon's voice softened into a hum of approval. You have given it remembrance, she whispered. Even forgotten dreams wait only to be seen. I smiled faintly, setting it free. It floated upward, joining the others, leaving a faint trail of light behind. The hum deepened once more. From the pool, a figure began to rise, luminous, flowing, made entirely of silver light. She took form slowly, the shape of a woman cloaked in moonbeams, her eyes reflecting every dream in the valley. The moon herself, but her presence wasn't overwhelming. It was gentle, maternal, endlessly kind. Her smile was like dawn without heat, pure, eternal calm. Why have you called me here? I asked softly. She stepped closer, her feet leaving no mark upon the mist. Because you are ready, she said. You have walked through time, through reflection, through release. Now you may hear what lies beyond dreams. Her hand, cool and radiant, reached out and touched my forehead. In that instant, I saw 1,000 faces dreaming across the world. Children clutching blankets, old souls remembering lost loves, lonely hearts whispering to the night for comfort. And through it all, the same soft thread connecting every dream. Light, her voice echoed inside me. When you sleep, you are not alone. You drift among all who dream, bound by a language older than stars. The valley holds you all, cradling every soul in silence until morning. Tears welled again, not of sadness this time, but of awe. The moon lowered her hand. One more place remains, she said. The heart of the moon, where all dreams return to rest. There, you will understand why you were chosen to walk this path. The valley around me brightened every dream, light rising higher, swirling into a spiral that reached the heavens. The hum became song, the air filled with shimmering dust, like snow made of starlight. I looked once more at the valley, now a sea of light in motion. It pulsed like a living thing, vast, infinite, beautiful. And then a path appeared, a bridge of pure moonlight leading upward, toward the heart of the sky. I took a breath, my heart steady, full of quiet reverence. The moon's voice, fading but near, whispered, "Go, dreamer. The night itself awaits your final step." And with that, I began to ascend, surrounded by drifting lights that rose beside me, each one a dream. A heartbeat, a hope carried home. Perfect, we now step into the heart of peace itself. This is the final chapter, the soft closing breath of the dream. Every word will fall like moonlight, every sentence a gentle exhale toward sleep. Here begins chapter 10, the heart of the moon. The bridge of light rose higher and higher, glowing faintly beneath my feet. Each step felt like floating, like walking through a breath between worlds. The air grew still, weightless, as though silence itself were guiding me upward. Below, the Valley of Dreams shimmered in slow rhythm, its millions of tiny lights pulsing like the heartbeat of the universe. The hum I had felt before, that tender, endless vibration, now surrounded me completely. It wasn't sound anymore. It was being. It was the rhythm of rest. I could no longer tell where my breath ended and the night began, far above. The moon filled the sky, vast, luminous, alive. Her silver glow reached out like open arms, gathering the wandering lights into her embrace. And as I drew closer, I saw that her surface wasn't solid stone. It was woven light, threads of memory and hope interlaced like silk in water. The closer I came, the softer I became. My heartbeat slowed. My thoughts drifted like leaves on a calm tide. Each step dissolved a little more of what I once called me. When I reached the threshold, the bridge melted into mist, and I stepped onto the moon itself. It was not cold, as I had always imagined, but warm, like the inside of a lantern. The ground shimmered faintly, translucent, and through it I could see rivers of silver light flowing slowly beneath the surface, winding and coiling, pulsing with gentle luminescence. Each current carried fragments of dreams, laughter, whispers, sighs, all blending into an eternal stream. I knelt down, touched it, and for a moment felt everything. The joy of a child seeing snow for the first time. The quiet peace of two hands finding each other in the dark. The sigh of forgiveness. The stillness after rain. All the world's softest moments, flowing endlessly here. Then her voice came again, but it was no longer distant. It was everywhere, inside me, around me, like I had stepped into the very heart of her voice. Welcome home, dreamer. I looked up, and there she was. The moon, not in the shape of a face or form, but in light, rippling, breathing, infinite, still. I felt her gaze, kind, ancient, and full of knowing. Why me? I whispered. My voice barely existed anymore, as if the air itself spoke for me. Her light pulsed, slow and calm. Because you listened. I listened. When the world grew loud, you still heard the silence between the sounds. You still looked at the night and saw something sacred. You still believed that stillness could heal. Her words wrapped around me like a soft blanket. I closed my eyes and breathed in, out, in again, until breathing itself became part of the hum. The night does not need worship. She continued, only remembrance. Every soul forgets to rest until the heart grows heavy. You have walked this far to remember what sleep truly is, not the absence of waking, but the presence of peace. As she spoke, the rivers beneath me brightened. Streams of silver rose into the air, swirling gently around us, each one carrying a whisper, a memory, a fragment of dream returning home. And then I saw them, the people whose dreams had filled the valley below. Faces glowed faintly within the light, each one peaceful, their expressions serene, eyes closed in slumber. They floated like lanterns on a celestial tide. The moon's voice softened further, becoming a lullaby. Every night, when they close their eyes, I gather their fragments. I hold them until morning, polishing the rough edges, softening the ache, weaving their fears into light. The images swayed and shimmered. Each one was being gently unburdened, sorrow melting into calm, anxiety into quiet. It was the alchemy of rest, and among those drifting lights, I saw my own reflection. It was faint, a small, silver silhouette, but it smiled, eyes peaceful, surrounded by warmth. "Will I stay here?" I asked softly. The moon shimmered, her tone both tender and infinite. "You may rest here for as long as you wish, but you are not meant to remain. You are meant to return to carry the calm you've found back into waking, to remind others that stillness still exists." Her light pulsed gently, and a faint silver wind rose around me. The air smelled of jasmine and starlight. Time slowed to a breathless pause. "You will not remember every word," she whispered, "but you will remember the feeling, the hush between thoughts, the comfort that waits beneath worry. When you wake, it will guide you." I nodded, though I felt myself beginning to fade, not into nothingness, but into softness. My edges blurred. My body felt lighter than mist. It was not sleep or waking, it was something between. Pure being. The moon's light surrounded me completely now, and the rivers of silver rose higher, swirling in vast, slow spirals. The hum deepened, not loud, but eternal, like the sound of creation breathing in its sleep. The moon sang. It wasn't in words, it was tone. Vibration, a melody that moved through every part of me. Each note seemed to brush the inside of my soul, untangling knots I didn't know I carried. With every sound, I sank deeper, lighter, freer. I floated upward, weightless, cradled by silver light. The moon whispered one final time, "Rest now, dreamer. You have walked through every shadow and found only light. Let it hold you, always." Her words dissolved into brightness. The valley below dimmed into distance. My thoughts drifted like feathers, slower, softer, quieter, until even the idea of thought faded. There was only warmth, only stillness, only peace. The last thing I felt was the light of the moon, gentle as a hand on my cheek, and the slow, eternal rhythm of her voice. "Sleep and be whole again."